Alright, so we got to this point. I just wanted to show a little bit of, I mean, I am hardly touching this. This is just as smooth and beautiful as you can imagine. It's just, I speak a little bit in other videos about this pin and this indentation here, this hole, and they line up. If you see there, they line up, and if you get that if you get this one tooth out, you won't be able to turn this. It just locks up against the pin. Will lock up against here. So it's a very clever idea, and if you think about it, why do they bother doing this? In today's machinery, they don't even bother doing this. And the reason why they do this is because this machine was made by people who'd come through as apprentices. They had come through the ranks. They knew that the more you introduce to a machine to make it difficult to get it wrong, the easier it is to repair this. Imagine if you put this and it's one tooth out and you go through the whole process to put this entire thing together and it's wrong. Now, and you'll see on the earlier videos, underneath these screws there are countersinks on the shaft, this shaft and that shaft. So these can't go in the wrong place on the shaft. But you can get the two shafts out of sync. And if you get the two shafts out of sync, the entire machine will not work. So this alignment here is critical. Right, so people, what they do, sometimes they put marks on the teeth, but imagine how difficult it would be to align those marks up beforehand. But what you can do with these, you can make sure that you've got them measuring correctly in your hand, and then offer them up into the machine in the right mesh, and push the shafts through, and then align these screws, and the timing is perfect. Okay, so I'll just run you by a couple of little things. This is just a material guide that just leads out. It faces that way, and the material comes along here. We've seen this is your walking foot. This is your cam. This is your feed cam. With this, these are replaceable, as we said, and you can buy different ones. You still get them today with different pitches, thread pitch. This is the cover that we were talking about. Look at it, how beautifully that's one single casting. That's simply just to cover underneath. It'll last for many years. Here's your slide, and this is the little retaining screw goes in the back of it. What else have we got here that's interesting? This is the little drive square that goes on here. It can only go in one direction. Okay, you see there's something that's, I mean, they make it so that you can't get it wrong, you know. Fantastic. And there's the foot we discussed. The foot, and here is the pusher plate, as I call it. Probably got some other name. By the way, the spares list for this is available from MERROW, the spares list, and the threading diagram is available from them, and a lot of other information. There's a very old movie on how to thread it and how to set it up, but the quality is not very good, so it's not that easy to see what they were doing. This is the transfer plate that transfers the thread from here through to there, and this is the main oscillating lower looper. This is the looper housing, and these are the little followers that run in these grooves. Right. So having said all that, I will do a video of it, putting this back together from this point, so that we can see it in reverse. Okay, we'll start putting this back. I'm going to put this back with this first. You got to be careful when you put this back that you do not get these falling off, falling into here, because it's a little bit of a fiddle to get them off. Right, so okay, so we're going to put this in now, pop that forward, put the 2 screws in. Okay, so we can see it doing its thing there. You can see the timing exactly there. You can see it on that side. You can see we go in there and there and there, and that's the looper timing. It's exactly set up as it should be. So now, you mustn't forget, put this foot in its place, because you won't be able to get it in afterwards. No, we just got to move that out of the way. Right, so there's the foot there. You can see there, it's going to press up against that plate there. Up against that plate. Right, and we get to put it back in. So now we're going to put this on, but to put it on, you've got to put this in first. Slip it on there. Right. And you can put this on there like that, so that you already have this in position. Because to try and put this in afterwards, I don't think it's impossible if you can take that, but it's not worth it. So there are 2 screws that hold these in. It's these 2 here with the longer caps. You can pop those in, one in here, one in there, keep my hand out of the way so you can see what's going on. Right, this square now is in here. Right, it has a hole in it. The hole, the oil hole, goes to the top. The bottom one doesn't have a hole. Right, so there's that part, right? And we have that. And we have this. And pop those two nuts back on again quickly. This goes in here. There we go. You basically back to where you were. You just got to be careful not to do it. Okay, we'll leave it for there. You know how that goes. It goes back on there. The foot goes back in. Pretty straightforward. So we managed to free up this thread. It's got two threads. We've got the other one is down the bottom here. I just get my porridge out there. And the other one we discovered it didn't have these bits, and it was very corroded. You can see the corrosion even though this is hard. Anyway, I managed to clean up this thread as best I could, and then our looper was also broken. Okay, so at the moment I have the lifter mechanism off, as you can see. It's off, and there's the little thread cutter, which you would obviously hang over the edge like that when you mount it all. This screw and nut in the middle here is so that you can lock the foot up. Otherwise, normally this is attached to a chain and it's foot operated. So you don't want to have to sit there with your foot or try to tie it down like I did at some stage. I discovered you just use that. And you can see how often it's been used. It's really worn out, and this has been repositioned many times because obviously it moves, and if it ducks behind you, it doesn't work anymore. Right, you have to take it. I had to take the needle blade off, and there is the one new screw that we ordered. 532, 7, 532. The 7 is the screw number. So that went in there. Not ideal, it could have been a little bit longer, but it's the right thread, and there are only 2 screws. That was the only screw missing off this machine, and that one and this screw are the only 2 532s on the entire machine. And this one holds the needle plate on, and it's especially thin on the top. That one is fatter and it would protrude. So it could have been a little bit longer, but that's the only thread that they had. Now, these people are not sponsoring me or anything like that, but I'd like to just mention that these are the people that I got these bits from. Just absolutely painless exercise. ready, and I'll show you now what they sent me. So there's 3 things we ordered. A replacement looper, and I managed to find one of these belonging to a different machine, but all the bits are exactly the same. And since I've managed to get that sorted in some measure, and from the information that I have, the lower thread has very, very little tension. So it's not as though this one, if they do work hard, that one will work the harder. Now, look at that. This is an old box, as you can see. So I reckon that box is, this is 90 years old, this is probably 70 years old. And what is in here has obviously been made a long time ago, because it is even accumulated some patina of its own, having set in the box. A little bit of rust on it, but remarkable that it is now. Here it is, the entire thing, like new. Now, notice they have a little thrust washer between them, so the two don't rub on each other, which is extraordinary. Obviously, some of these are going to get lost, so that doesn't exist on this one. So there's that, and whip that bit off. Right, and we have the two, and this belongs to a different machine, but also a MERROW machine. So here's ours. As you can see, it's a lot chunkier and all the rest of it, but the rest of it will work fine. That arbor is a little longer, but I don't imagine it makes any difference, because, as I said, it's not going to have to work that hard, and that is more than enough tension we've got there. We can still come up a little bit rough, but it doesn't matter. It's not going to be used a million times. Once you get it set up, you get it set up, and there it is. That back one is quite a bit tighter. So we've got that all good to go. And then I'll show you, this is the retaining nut that goes in underneath the machine. I'll show you where we put that in. So here we go. There is the new looper. Nice, shining new looper. Right, that places in a slightly different. This is a 58M, and this is a 58. They both just got 58 written on them, and they are not in their profile identical. But I think this is an improvement on that, because I've had this in the machine. So we'll look at how this all goes together in just a moment. Right, let me get a few of these things out of our way now, and we can pull the machine closer. Right, and I don't know if you can see, but there's the looper. Not the looper, sorry, there's the bottom hook. Right, and just to explain to you that in there's a screw, and here there's a screw. So when the outer screw fastens this one, the inner screw fastens the other one. So I'm going to put this one in. There you can see the hole that it goes into, right the way there, and it's got a flat on it here, on the flat and all the way in, and there it is, just missing. hope you can see that. I'm going in the forward direction. Let me go around one. So there the looper comes up, passes the needle, or the needle passes it, and then whoop, on its way back, catches that thread and sews it in. You can see that little bit of wobble is wobble on the actual cam itself. There's nothing you can do about that. I've taken up the movement this way. There's no movement in horizontally as you looking at it. Right, then it comes down and it goes in. Then the bottom hook comes out, and slightly, if you look there, slightly beyond the needle. It's got a little pin on it. Don't think it's got a thread in it. And then it hooks the needle thread on the way back. The looper comes up, pulls it over to the other side, and the whole procedure starts again. So when I turn it here, there's absolutely no grating or anything. Everything is clearing perfectly. So if I thread this up, it should all work. So we'll see in a bit. Alright, so now I'm going to just quickly put this back, which just screws into this. There's a 1/4 inch thread there. Okay folks, so there it is, it's in its place. And just for a matter of interest, the new ones that replaced this, they realized that this is in a very vulnerable position here. It can get banged off, it can get, it's not in the best position. And they changed the machine to have these all at the top. There is another blanked off here. You can put one identical to this in that position, because they use the same casting for the 3-thread machine. But this, in the later models, they changed it, and they also made this, put the foot at an angle so that you could take the foot out of the way to be able to do the setup without having to strip everything the way that we have to. We'll leave it at that now. I think we're all pretty clear about what's going on. I'm just going to put a few bits back, the needle plate, and we'll see if what it can do. You can see some detail on here. How much detail can you see? Cover, open that up, and you can see there. Okay, so now we're going to do a little bit of I've set up the cutter, set the cutter up here, and I'm going to cut this, cut a new piece here, boom, right, it's an old good old rag that, and pop it in here, like that, right, as if I'm going to be sewing that seam, right, so here we go. off, and there we are. There's the bit here. Whoops. Like I bought one. According to the book, the cutter mustn't extend beyond the foot. Well, not beyond the foot. You need to be able to see under there. It mustn't extend beyond the needle plate, but more than a 32nd of an inch. And it certainly must never ride on the foot, which it doesn't, because the foot is cut. As you can see how the foot comes up and clears the top cutter, so it doesn't ride on the foot. Then, having done that, put the needle plate on, pop that into its position, and then I brought this, loosened it there and here, brought the cutter down to stick out, not very far. You can more or less see how far the cutter is sticking out there. And then I tightened this screw. Then I brought this up with my finger here on this thing, brought it up against the lower cutter, and I tightened this screw. That's all. Just hand tight like that. And there you can see the results. All right, I have, as you can see, I have honed with a hone, that's all, just with the ordinary hone. Honing stone. I use this same honing stone by hand, and I just lap those a bit. So after 90 years, they haven't even been ground. They've just been lapped. It's still cutting. It's been in the weather for how long it hasn't affected. It's just ridiculous. Really, it is. Everything's rusted on this thing. I mean, look at the rust on here. All the chrome's coming off. Here, there's virtually no paint left from. Basically, the paint's just picked up from moisture. So it's a half-inch shaft here. What is this? It's a half-inch shaft, 12,7. Right, so it's a half-inch shaft, so a 13mm drill chuck will go on there. It's nice and hard, so the chuck's not going to do it any harm. We can tighten up very, very tight and just drive it. And I have no doubt this machine will rise again. Okay, we're going to try and do a little bit of a setup here. I've been setting up the looper and the needle and a few other things. You can see it going there. I'm just going to take off this right. Pop the drill on. Nice and tight. Right, let's see what happens. We're really gonna go. Alright. There we go. It's kind of done its thing. That's not so bad.